morning, students. So in today's lecture, we'll discuss about we had left one derivation when we discussed magnetic field intensity, that is magnetic field intensity due to a solenoid, and then we'll discuss about inductance and mutual inductance, right? And also we'll discuss inductance due to some of the some of the like inductance of a solenoid, right? And all those. Now, yeah, this was the syllabus, as you all know. Yeah, we'll start with the magnetic field intensity of a solenoid. So now here, so we have to obtain the expression for field intensity and magnetic flux density at a point on the axis of a solenoid of infinite length, right? Now this is a solenoid. Now first we'll understand what do you mean by solenoid. So a solenoid is a coil of conducting material which is uniformly wound around a cylindrical non-magnetic hollow material, right? The coil has n turns and it carries a current I. Let the radius of this, okay, that is the part of the derivation. Now you'll have two parts in a solenoid. One is a non-magnetic hollow material, right? Hollow cylinder, that is this one, right? So this is non-magnetic hollow cylinder. So on this you will have a winding on this with a with a conducting material like copper, right? Conducting material like copper, so it will be uniformly wound. So there are n number of turns here and the current flowing through that is I. Anyway, that is the part of the derivation. So you know what is solenoid now. It has two parts. One is hollow cylinder, and on the hollow cylinder a wire is wound on it, right? So now we are finding what is the expression for field intensity and magnetic flux density at a point on the axis of a solenoid of infinite length, right? So first we'll understand the diagram. Yes, now this is a solenoid, right? Now, so since we cannot take everything for the sake of for the analysis, what we'll do, I'll take one part, I mean one a small length of the solenoid, right? dz. I'll take this part for analysis, which is at the height dz, which is nothing but the width of this one is dz, right? The total length we are not taking, we are taking only the length dz, right? Now what we are doing is, due to this particular part of a solenoid, we are calculating what is magnetic field intensity at this point P, right? So due to this solenoid, whatever we have assumed or whatever we have considered here of height dz, we are calculating what is magnetic flux, what is magnetic field intensity at this point P, right? So now from this point P, I'll draw lines to three places. One is, and again at this point is at the center of the solenoid, so the axis of the solenoid is like this at Z. So this line is at the center of the cylinder. I hope you have understood. This line is at the center of the solenoid. So to that point we are finding the, at that point, I mean on that point, on that line, the point P, we are calculating what is magnetic field intensity. So from this point I will draw three lines. So one is to the top of the solenoid and the other one is to the bottom of the solenoid, right? And the other one is from the point to the part of the solenoid what we have considered. So three lines we have drawn. So now we'll have three angles. The first one is theta 2 from Z axis. Everything is measured counterclockwise. So first one is for between the line which is joining the point and the end of the solenoid, that is theta 2, that is measured from the Z axis, what is shown here. The other angle again from Z axis we are measuring here, so that is theta, and one more angle is from the Z axis measured to the line which is drawn from the point P to the top of the coil, that is theta 1, right? Now sorry for the delay. Yeah. So now we have drawn three lines. One is to the top of the solenoid, one is to the bottom of the solenoid, and one more line to the part of solenoid what we have considered for analysis. So theta 2, theta and theta 1 are the angles respectively, which is measured counterclockwise from z axis. Right. Now we'll start the derivation now. So now the coil has n turns and it carries a total current I. So the current here flowing through this is I. Right. Let the radius of the cylinder, that is solenoid, is A. So if this is this, the radius of this solenoid is A, right? Now let the radius, okay, and its axis is along z axis as I told you. So this is shown in the figure, right? This figure. Now one more important thing. Now if you take the whole solenoid, if you take the whole solenoid, and if I take the length of this as L, if I take the length of this as L, so for a solenoid of length L, there are capital N turns, right? Now I have taken a small part of a solenoid here, that is dz. So for the length dz, for the length dz, what are the number of turns? What are the number of turns? So I'll take this question mark as small n. So where small n is the number of turns in the height dz, right? So now what will be the answer? We have to cross multiply this one, right? So if we cross multiply this, that will be n will be equal to n will be equal to n dz n dz by L. It will be small l, or you can take it as small l itself because you'll get confused with what to say capital L with inductance. So we'll take it as small l, where L is the total length of the solenoid. Right. So n is equal to n d phi by L. So what is this n? This n is nothing but the total number of turns in the height dz, in the height or in the width dz, height dz, right? So now we'll start with the derivation. Yeah, you can see here. So it is n dz by L, that is number of turns in the what to say thickness dz. At point P, the point P is at the distance z from the elementary length. The angle, yeah, whatever I told you with the angles, the same thing is written here, theta 1 and theta 2, right? You can read this explanation. Now we have to find what is dh. Now for finding h vector, I would like to remind you one of the derivation which we did. So this derivation you remember, where we found h vector for a circular ring. For a circular ring, we placed a circular ring at the what to say xy plane at z is equal to 0, and we calculated what is magnetic field intensity at this point, right? So that derivation is this one. I mean, when we started with magnetostatics, we have done this derivation, so you can refer the previous videos. So we have h vector is equal to I rho square Az by 2 rho square plus h square into 3 by power 3 by 2. So now the same equation is written here. So since I have taken from the different textbook, I mean not different textbook, for this problem we have taken the radius as A. So we have I, so I is here. Rho square, we have taken the radius as A, so it is A square, right? And since we have taken only the magnitude, so Az part will not be there. Now it will be 2 A square plus Z square whole power 3 by 2, right? This is for how many terms this is for how many terms? This is for one turn, right? When we did the derivation, we had taken only one turn on xy plane. But here how many turns are there? We have n by L dz terms. So I have included this term here, n by L dz terms. This was for one turn. This was for N by L dz terms, right? I hope you understood how we got this equation. Now where A is the radius of the solenoid and I N by L is the current in turns N by L, yeah, N by L. Now hence H vector at a point P on the axis can be obtained by summing H vector due to all such elementary rings spread from one end of the solenoid to the other, that is within the theta of within the theta from theta 1 to theta 2. Yeah. So what happens here? We have taken only dz here, but we should consider from top to bottom, right? So there are so many number of turns. Now we'll see how to do that. So now from the geometry of the figure, tan theta is equal to a by z. Correct. What is tan theta? Opposite by adjacent. So what is at theta? So here theta opposite is a. Correct. And I'll take the distance of from P to this width, whatever we have considered as r, that is hypotenuse. So it will be opposite by adjacent. Yeah, it is z. So opposite is a, adjacent is z. So a by z. So we get this one. So now magnitude of h will be theta 1 to theta 2 dh vector. So we have what is dh vector? I mean dh here, magnitude dh. So here we have written that equation, right? So here we have substituted z is equal to a cot theta, like how we did for infinite line charge or infinite current carrying conductor, right? The same thing. So you can go through this derivation. It is the same way how it is done. So this is the final equation what we get for a finite length of the solenoid, Now what happens here if the length of the solenoid increases? If this I drag it to the top, what happens to this alpha 1? So alpha 1, what happens? It will keep on decreasing. So alpha 1 will be taken as 180 degrees. And down, if I keep on increasing, this alpha 2 will become 0 degrees, right? I mean that is theta 2. Theta 1 will be 180, theta 2 will be 0. So if I substitute that here, that will become for infinite. So theta 1 is 180 and theta 2 is 0 degrees, right? So h vector will be, after substituting the values of theta, you will get h vector is equal to, Ni by L ampere turns meter. Ni by L ampere turns meter, right? So if the number of turns is 1, it will be ampere per meter, which is nothing but the unit of h vector, right? So this is the derivation how we find magnetic field intensity at a given point on the axis of the solenoid. Now how do you find b vector from this? Yeah, b vector we have already found here. So this is b vector. So b vector, you will have mu here. So if you b vector is equal to mu h vector. So if you want to find b here, just multiply mu with this equation, it will become b vector, right? So we got both magnetic field intensity and magnetic flux density, right? So we'll move on to the next topic. Yes, inductance and mutual inductance. So all these you have already studied in basic electrical, so I'll just brush through once. So now when a coil of N turns carrying current I, the flux is produced by it. The flux links with each turn of the coil. Thus the total flux linkage of the coil having N turn will be N phi Weber turns. Now what happens here? Now here we have number of turns here. So the total number of turns taken here is capital N. Now when the current is passing through one turn, we'll assume that the flux produced is phi due to one turn. So if there are n number of turns, what happens? The total flux linkage will become n phi. That is what is written here, n phi. So next, the flux linked with the coil is proportional to the current. So phi is proportional to I. The more current you pass through the coil, the more flux is produced, right? So now where n is again a constant now. correct? So now now what happens? The high flowing through it, the ratio of the total flux linkage to the current producing that flux is called inductance. That is, inductance will be defined as N phi by I. N phi by I. Now, how much current we passed and how much flux linkage it produced. So the ratio of those two is called inductance, right? So L is equal to N phi by I and the unit is Henry, right? And this inductance, whatever we discussed here, is called self-inductance because whatever flux is produced is due to the current flowing through the coil itself. It is not the, it is not the flux which is produced due to the flowing of current in the other coil, right? So it is called self-inductance. So let us now derive the important expression for the inductance of common elements such as, so we'll see how to obtain the equation for solenoid. We are not going to this one. We are not going to see this one. And we'll see how to obtain the capacity, inductance for coaxial cable also. Coaxial cable also. Right? So first one, inductance of a solenoid. Inductance of a solenoid is, so consider a solenoid of n number of turns as shown in the figure. So there are n number of turns here. Let the current flowing through this will be I and the length of the solenoid is L and the cross sectional area. So the cross sectional area of this will be A. Cross sectional area is A, right? From the results obtained in the previous section, the field intensity inside the solenoid is given by H is equal to Ni by L ampere meter. Now just now we have seen H vector for a solenoid. Here we have Ni by L. So H vector is equal to Ni by L ampere per meter. So the total flux linkage is given by the total flux linkage N phi is equal to N, and this phi is written as B into A because B is equal to, what is B? Magnetic flux density. It is flux per area, right? So how can the flux be written? Flux can be written as B into A, correct? So here phi is written as B into A. Now again B is nothing but mu naught H, mu H, which you all know, right? N and A remains the same. So the total flux linkage can be written as N mu N H A, right? Now what is H? H is nothing but Ni by L. So I have substituted Ni by L here. So what you will get? You will get mu N square I A by L, right? What is this one? This is total flux linkage. This is total flux linkage. Now what is L? L is nothing but total flux linkage by total current. When we saw the definition, we have seen that is inductance is nothing but total flux linkage by current I, correct? So total flux linkage equation is here, which is divided by I. So this I and this I will get cancelled. So what is the equation we get? L is equal to mu N square A by L Henry. So this is the equation of inductance for a solenoid, right? I hope you have understood this one. So next we'll see inductance of a coaxial cable. Coaxial cable. So we have discussed the capacitance of coaxial cable also, if you remember in the third module when we discussed Laplace and Poisson's equation. So consider a coaxial cable with inner conductor radius A and outer conductor radius B, right? To the center I guess. Yeah, no, outer thing is B. So let the current through the coaxial cable be I. Let the current be I and it is placed in Z axis. Radially it is placed Z axis. So for the coaxial cable, the field intensity at any point between inner and outer conductors is given by H is equal to I divided by 2 pi r. So this is the basic definition of what to say H. So what is the equation we got for H? Or I'll write it this way. So we know that the current enclosed is given by closed integral of H vector dot dl both are vectors here. So when we find the dot product of these two, it will become scalar, that is different. Now here I'll consider a round, I'll consider a circle of R, and I have a current carrying element in between, right? So if the current is flowing in this direction, H vector will be in this direction, right? If I take the radius of this as R, so what is the total length of this, what is the circumference of this circle? It will become 2 pi R. It will be 2 pi R. So I can take dl as 2 pi R. So now what will be H from this? H is nothing but, since we have got 2 pi R directly for dl, no need of integration here. So H is equal to I by 2 pi R, that is dl, right? I by 2 pi R. So that is the equation what is written here, right? So R is between A to B. So B is equal to mu H. So it will be mu I by 2 pi R. B is equal to mu H. So it will be mu I by 2 pi R. Now assume the axis of the cable is along Z axis as shown in the figure. The magnetic flux density will be in radial plane extending from R is equal to A to R is equal to B, and Z is equal to 0 to Z is equal to D. So let B is equal to mu I by 2 pi R into A phi cap Tesla. Now here we had considered only the magnitude of B. Now if you consider B vector, I told you always B vector will be along the tangential part. It will be tangential part of H vector. So for in cylindrical coordinate system, this is nothing but A phi cap. We discussed this when we discussed magnetic flux density, right? So it will have only A phi. So B vector is equal to mu I by 2 pi R A phi cap T. Now the total magnetic flux is given by, flux is equal to, this is not closed integral. If you take closed integral, this will be 0, correct? As Gauss law in magnetostatics. But here we are not taking a closed integral, it is open integral. So B dot ds will be some flux phi. So now ds, what is ds? When you need a phi as unit vector. So when you want a phi as unit vector, it will be of this form. In the cylindrical coordinate system, it will be of this form, and this will be a phi. So this height will be dz, and this width will be d rho. Here we are taking it as r, so I'll take it as dr. So it will be, this ds vector will be dr dz a phi cap. So that is what is written here for ds vector. Now here we have what is b vector, that is this equation, and we have what is ds vector, that is this equation. So when you find the dot product of these two, a phi and a phi will go off. So this is the equation what you get, mu I by 2 pi r dr dz, and since it is a surface we have to integrate it twice, for z and r. So z varies from 0 to d, r varies from a to b. So when you solve that, you will get flux is equal to mu I d by 2 pi ln of b by a, right? So now the inductance of the coaxial cable is total flux linkage divided by total current. So this is the total flux linkage. There are no number of turns here because it is a coaxial cable. So we have phi divided by I. So I and I will get cancelled. So this is the inductance of a coaxial cable. Now, so the inductance of a coil cable may be represented as a unit length. Now this is for the total length of D, right? We took Z is equal to 0 to D. Now if I take this, per unit, so I have to divide this whole by D. So D and D will get cancelled. So L by D, or if we cross multiply, inductance per unit length, will be this equation, right? So this is the equation for inductance of a coaxial cable, right? Now, yeah, I want you to go through this one which you have already seen in basic electrical. So this is the difference between electric circuit and magnetic circuit. Very simple, what to say, uh, similarities or analogy you can say. So here, for example, in electric circuit we call resistance. In magnetic it is called reluctance, right? So all the similarities are given here, right? And these are the dissimilarities. These are the dissimilar. What are the differences between electric circuit and magnetic circuit? I'm not going through all these. You just go through these one because we have already studied this in basic electrical, right? So now we'll come to mutual inductance, right? In what we discussed in, only inductance, that is self inductance. When the current through the coil, when the current is flowing through the coil, the flux is generated, and we found what is the total flux linkage divided by total current. That gave us the inductance, right? And the flux also was changing only because of the current flow in that coil. It is not due to the other coil. Now, but when you have two coils, when the flux changes in one of the coil, it links with the other coil also, right? It is called as mutual inductance. Now here you first understand this diagram. We have two circuits here. This is the first circuit and this is the second one. So consider two magnetic circuits with two different coils carrying two different currents as shown in the figure. So the current through this one is I1 and the current through this one is I2, right? So the flux linkage is different, the number of turns are different, inductances L1 and L2 are different, right? Let the flux phi11 be the flux produced due to the current I1. Let the flux phi22 be the flux produced due to the current I2, right? Let the coil 1 of N1 turns with the inductance L2 carries the current I1. The magnetic flux produced by the current I1 through the coil I is represented by phi11, right? As I told you, the same thing. So let the coil 2, same thing here, phi22 as I told you. Now the flux produced in coil 1 also links with coil 2 and produces another flux which is phi12, right? Similarly, second flux links with the first coil and produces phi21, right? So these two are the fluxes which is due to the interaction of two fluxes, phi11 and phi12. Now the total flux, this is important, the total flux linkage of the second coil due to the flux produced by the current I1 in the first coil is N2 into phi12, where N2 is the number of turns in the second coil and phi12 is the flux produced by the current I1. Similarly, we have N1 into phi21 for the first coil, right? So now M12 will be N2 phi12 by I1 Henry. So this is the flux linkage due to the other coil, right? In one of the coil due to the other flux, due to the other current. So similarly M21, right? So these are the equations for mutual inductance. But we can write M12 as M21 because both will be the same, right? When you multiply it, both will be the same. Now the mutual inductance depend on the magnetic interaction between the two currents. Similar to self-inductance, mutual inductance can also be measured in Henry. So the unit of mutual inductance also is Henry, right? So this is all about mutual inductance. I think already everyone knows all these. So you should know the main equations here. Yes, now like how we derived energy density in what to say in the second module. We have here also we have magnetic energy. So similar to the capacitor we studied previously, inductor also has energy storing element. Whereas energy stored in the capacitor, the energy is stored in the electrostatic field by the the inductor is stored in inductor stores the magnetic field, right? The energy stored in the inductor is given by Wm is equal to half Li square. I think everyone knows this. So consider a differential volume of a magnetic field B vector as shown in the figure. So this is the differential volume what we are considering in Cartesian coordinate system. Now consider that at the top of the top and bottom surfaces of differential volume, conducting sheets with current delta I are present. So on top and bottom we have conducting sheets, right? Where the current is delta I, but here you can see they are in opposite directions. From the definition of an inductance, we can write the inductance delta L of a differential volume as, So delta L is equal to delta phi by I. So flux linkage by current, which is equal to B into delta S. This is the definition of B, where B is equal to phi by S. So phi can be written as B into delta S by delta I. That is from this equation. That equation is represented here. From this equation, they have written this one for this phi. I hope you understood. Now, yes, where delta S is differential surface, that is delta X, delta Z, because we are considering delta X and delta Z, the height. Okay, so we are considering this one. This is delta X and delta Z. So this is the surface what we are considering with respect to this one. So delta L is equal to B into delta X delta Z by delta I. So B is equal to mu H. So delta L will be, here we are substituting for B. So B is substituted as mu H here. Now the differential current delta I can be expressed in terms of magnetic field intensity H. The current, now we are obtaining other equation for delta I. So delta I is equal to Hy. What is H? H is nothing but ampere per turn. Correct. Sorry, ampere per meter. So delta I can be written as H into delta Y. So energy stored in the inductor of a different volume is given by delta Wm is equal to half delta L into delta I square. So everything is differential here. So we have delta here. Putting values of delta L and delta I from equations 2 and 3. Okay. Delta M will be equal to 1 by 2. This equation is substituted for delta L. Correct. And this equation is substituted for delta I. So when you solve that, you will get half mu H square delta X delta Y delta Z. So delta X delta Y delta Z can be written as volume, right? So Wm, when delta V tends to 0, will get half mu H square. So Wm is equal to half. When you substitute everything here, we'll get half BH, or Wm is equal to B square by 2 mu. So these are the two equations. So Wm is equal to half of B vector dot H vector into dV is equal to half mu H square dV in different forms. When you substitute the equation for B, you will get this one. When you substitute the equation for H, we will get this one. Right? This is only in terms of H. This is only in terms of B, and this is only in terms of B and H. So this is the equation for magnetic energy. Right? So now, so these are the things which I had not discussed earlier. So I made a lecture on this one. So what all we have discussed in this lecture. So we have seen what is the what is H vector in a solenoid, H and B vector in the solenoid. So we have got these equations, that is B and H, right? And then we have seen what is inductance, and inductance of a solenoid, inductance of a coaxial cable. Then we have seen what are the similarities and what are the dissimilarities, and we have seen what is mutual inductance, right? So now, and we also seen what is magnetic energy, and finally we obtained the equation for magnetic energy as magnetic energy in terms of B and H. So and only with respect to H and B also, right? So we'll start with module 5 from the next lecture. There are some more problems here which I'll discuss later. So from the next class, we'll start with module 5, right? Thank you.